Right, hi everybody, and welcome to our first video lesson. The reason I'm going to be making these videos for you to watch throughout the week is because I want to make sure that we're spending our time in class as effectively as possible, to be answering questions and to be practicing language, because that's what you're going to need kind of feedback on, and you'll need other people to interact with in order to practice effectively. So here we have video lessons. What I'm going to cover in this video is pages 2 to 9 in your textbook. And so on the module for this week, it does say to read pages 2 to 9. My recommendation is actually to just watch this video, go through it with me, because I think if I just leave you to read this on your own, it will seem incredibly intimidating. There are words on this very first page, like labial, labiodental, diphthong, things that you don't actually need to know what they mean in order to get through this. So I don't want to throw you to the wolves. I don't want you to just read this and be scared off and want to drop the class, because it's really not actually as scary as it looks. But I think if you just read it on your own, it will seem kind of scary. So watch this video, read along with it. I might tell you to go back and read something by yourself, so do that. But we'll get through it together. In this video, I'll cover like what a syllable is and part of the pronunciation. And then later in the week, there'll be another video for you to watch on tones. So if we start out on page 2, I want to try to make this video not too long. So here we go. If you start out on page 2, the very top part is Mandarin and dialects. I'm not going to go through that. It is really fascinating, so please do go read that on your own. The dialects in China are really fascinating, and I do hope we have time to talk about it, but not in this video, in the interest of, not keeping you here for an hour. So the next bit, syllabic structure, pinyin, and pronunciation. The most important thing to know, and I'll stick a picture up here of where it says syllable equals initial, which is in parentheses. That means it's optional. Some syllables don't have an initial sound, and when they say initial, they mean consonants. So syllables, just like in English, typically have a consonant and then a vowel sound. And you can have a simple vowel sound or a compound final sound, which is where there's either more than one vowel, or there's a vowel with consonants like ing. Now, and then look at the picture on page 2. It says, the initial in their example is an N, and the final is a simple final, the A, and the tone is falling. So syllable equals initial plus final / tone. And that is actually the main thing you need to take away from this lesson. There are 6 simple finals, which means there are 6 vowel sounds. I'm going to play them for you from the audio, which you should have access to. And if you don't, let me know.
A, O, I, U, I.
So the 6 simple finals, and then if you read all of these paragraphs, it explains to you how to actually move your mouth and your tongue in order to make these. Some of them fairly simple, similar to what we have in English. Ah is pretty simple. The O is very different. It's like an O sound, which is where that, I told you that scary word diphthong is in here. Diphthong is when there's 2 vowel sounds together. In this case, it sounds like a diphthong, but it is not 2 vowels. It's only 1 vowel, an O. But it kind of sounds like it moves from a U to an O sound. So actually, if you see like my lips, like or, you have to move your mouth in order to make the sound. It's not one sound. So the O is or. And then if you read the paragraph on how to pronounce an E, you might look funny and feel funny trying to copy what they're telling you to do, but it will help. I is an E. It can be pronounced differently, but we'll get to that later. U, like the U is an U sound, and the U with an umlaut is the one I found the most difficult to pronounce when I was starting out, which is an U sound, almost like ooh, like ew, yuck, but it's like more rounded. Just go ahead and read through those paragraphs, but just don't be intimidated, okay? It's not absolutely essential that you pronounce things perfectly here in the beginning. And then we move on to initials. So there are 21 initial sounds, and they're grouped together based on what endings they can have. And that's so that's when you look at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They're grouped that way because of what finals they go with. And again, that's not something you need to memorize. You go ahead and read through it, but it's not something you really need to know or really need to memorize. It's just something to be aware of. So here we have the first group is B, P, M, and F, bo, po, mo, fo. And it goes through and explains how to pronounce each one of them. It's not entirely necessary because they're very, very similarly pronounced to how we would pronounce these letters in English. B, P, M, F. The only thing is like the B is not quite as hard usually as like a B. It's a little bit softer like a B. And that's really the only difference. But do go through and listen to the audio for how these initial final combinations look, because that's going to be one of the assignments this week, is to practice that pronunciation along with the recording. So you'll listen to the recording and it will say something like ba, bi, bu, bo. Okay, for that first one, B, and then same pa, pi, pu, po, and it will just ask you to speak along with it, to repeat after it, to practice that pronunciation. But I'm not going to do all of that with you here. The next group is D, T, N, and L. Again, pronounced very similarly, D, T, N, L. And so you'll listen again with these, B2, A through D. For example, that first line, da, di, du, de. So that's where that sound, the E, which is a little bit different than how we would pronounce any E's in English. But da, di, du, de. And then the next line, ta, ti, tu, te. And again, you'll be able to practice that with the recordings. Okay, but other than that, there's not a big difference in how we pronounce those letters to how we pronounce them in English. The next three, g, k, h, they're all very similar, but I'll just say they're pretty much pronounced the same way you will in English. For now, that's all we really need to know. It's just a little bit further back in your mouth, if that makes sense. And then again, you'll listen through to like gu, g, ga, and ku, k, ka. The next one, these are different. So J, Q, and X. J is pretty much the same. J, J, J. Q does not make a Q sound. It makes a Ch sound. So that one you will probably have to pay attention. It's kind of like a CH sound, but then there also is a CH sound in Chinese. So it's a little bit different, but it's, to an English speaker, almost unintelligibly different. At least in the beginning, it took me a long time to be able to identify the difference between a Q and a CH sound. So for now, just know that a Q sounds like a CH. That's the important bit. So J, Ch, and X is like a sh sound, like an SH. Again, there's also an SH sound. So sh and sh are almost indistinguishable to an untrained ear, and that's totally fine. It's perfectly normal to, at least in the beginning, think of Q as the same as CH and to think of X as the same as SH. And then, yeah, do go through and listen to the audio and practice along with those pronunciation audios to get the j, ch, sh sounds. Z, C, and S are also different. Okay, so J is the same, Q is about the same as a CH, X is about the same as an SH, Z, C, and S. Z is similar to a Z, but it's a little bit more toward the front of your mouth. So, and it explains here, it's more similar to a DS sound, Z, Z, instead of a Z, Z. Very hard to hear the difference. But here they explain it quite well. It's similar to like the sound in the word lids, lids. C is like a TS sound. So think of like saying something costs 5 cents. Okay? 25 cents. Tss. TS. Tss. And that is what a C sound makes. So that one is a difficult one to kind of get your head around, but it, or like at the end of the word cats, cats. Tss. And then S is the same. S is a S sound. So Z, C, and S are Z, C, S. Z, C, S. So those are fairly different. Mostly just the C sound is different. Z is still similar. And then again, part of your assignment this week, go through, listen to those pronunciation audios, and speak along with them. All right, moving right along. Next page, the next set of initials are not letters themselves. Well, the R is, but there are combination sounds. So ZH is a J, almost similar to a J, but it's softer. So it's J, 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 like in the word zhong, zhong, zhong. So it's very similar to the J sound, but that's a harder sound. So like J, and this one is J. So it's just a bit softer, if that makes sense. CH, again, is ch, like cha-cha-cha, ch. Very similar to the Q sound, ch, ch. Almost the same. You can, as I said, for now, you can think of them as the same sound, and we can work out the little nuance later. But ch is CH, sh, just like in English. And then R. R is It's similar to how you pronounce it in English, but it's not quite the same. So think about making the sh sound and then make an R sound instead. Think about the shape your mouth is making when you're making a sh, and then just make a r. So your tongue is back a little bit. And I think it does help to read this paragraph. R is pronounced in the same manner as sh, but it is voiced. And anywhere that it says voiced and unvoiced in here is just the difference of a voiced sound is something that, like, if you put your fingers to your neck and you feel like vibration. So, for example, if you make a v sound, you'll feel vibration. But if you make a f sound, you won't. So those are what are called voiced and unvoiced pairs. Again, you don't need to know that. But make a v sound and then make a f sound. You'll notice you do the same thing with your mouth. F, v, but you'll feel on the V the vibration, and on the F you won't. So f, v are pairs because you do the same thing with your mouth. F is unvoiced, so you don't vibrate your vocal cords. V is voiced. You will have come across these words if you've done singing or musical theater, probably. So sh would be the unvoiced, and would be a voiced version. You do the same thing with your mouth, but you're making a voiced sound. So therefore the vocal cords vibrate. Pronounce it simply by prolonging sh, making sure your lips are not rounded. So sh, just try to make almost an ER sound, and again, go through, listen to all of these pronunciation. It looks like it's a lot, but each one is only a few seconds long. So you should be able to listen and practice along with them. All right, so then this is where there's this on page, where are we? Page 7. There's this kind of confusing matrix you'll see at the top of page 7, where they're talking about unaspirated and aspirated and fricative and nasal. And you don't need to know what those words are. You can look them up. Fricative is like a pushing of air. Again, unaspirated, aspirated is like b, p. B is like the voiced. P is a unvoiced. And then you have bilabial, labiodental, apical, toothpick. Like, you can kind of ignore this matrix unless you want to look up all these words. Unless you're studying linguistics at a higher education level, you're almost definitely never going to come across these words again. So don't bother being intimidated by them. But if linguistics fascinates you, go ahead, look these up, and go through this matrix. But we're just going to skip ahead to compound finals, because all you really need for now is the practical bit, which is knowing how to pronounce these so we can say them together. Compound finals are as follows.
1.
I, A, O, O,
2.
N, N, on,
3.
呀，腰，耶，优，烟，阴，央，应，庸。
4,
蛙窝歪微弯温汪温
5,
约冤晕
6,
儿
So, the compound finals are significantly more difficult. And again, all I'm going to tell you to do for these actually is for this one, I am going to tell you to just read through pages 8 and 9. It's mostly just the pronunciation exercises. Listen to the audios and try to repeat after them because these are super difficult to describe how to say them. And I think the easiest way to do it will just be to listen and repeat. I know, again, this is not a particularly fun way to dive into a language. Just by doing these kind of repetitive these repetitive pronunciation exercises. And as I said, Chinese is something that does come with practice. And so please do not be too hard on yourself. Please don't be, especially if you're kind of a perfectionist sort of person, don't be too worried about pronouncing things exactly correctly. It does come with time. It does come with practice. It's just like saying a tongue twister. The first time you hear a tongue twister, it's quite difficult. It's designed to be difficult in that way. But if you practice tongue twisters, you'll find that it becomes muscle memory and you're able to say them much more easily. And Chinese is in some ways quite like that, like a tongue twister. It will be very difficult for you to do it the first time you encounter it, but as you practice, it will become muscle memory and you will be able to pronounce these with no problem. So don't worry about it and go ahead, practice those pronunciation exercises, and I will see you in class.